Good morning. My name is Susan Nawberry, the hearing officer for San Francisco Public Works. Nathan Rodas is the clerk for this hearing. This hearing is being recorded via Zoom and will be available afterward through a link on the San Francisco Public Works website, sfpublicworks.org. As this is a virtual hearing, there is no sign-in sheet, so if you would like to receive information about the results of this hearing, please send an email to the email address listed on the hearing notice. This public hearing is being held to consider 4 items. 4? Sorry. Yes, sorry, I had the thing. 5 items. Hearing order 206675 to consider the validity of notices to repair that have been issued to various property owners and utility agencies for the restoration of public right-of-way sidewalks. As part of the city's sidewalk inspection repair program, SERP, inspectors from San Francisco Public Works Bureau of Streets and Mapping have conducted inspections on blocks in the inner Richmond district, neighborhood bordered by Anza Street on the north, 18th Avenue on the east, Fulton Street on the south, and 23rd Avenue on the west. Item number 2, hearing order 206692 to consider the following: India Basin Vesting Tentative Map application number 11105, prepared on behalf of India Basin Investment LLC, submitted on December 1st, 2021. Vesting Tentative Map application 11105, dated December 1st, 2021, to authorize a 34 lot division with up to 1,575 new residential condominium units, 1 existing residential unit to be relocated, and up to 180 commercial condominium units. Item number 4, hearing number 206714. Let's see. Potrero Power Station conditions of approval amendment to consider amending condition for approval for tentative final map 10714 to allow for the number of condominium units on each lot to shift between the tentative map and each phased final map, so long as the phased final map remains in substantial conformance with the tentative map and the overall number of condominium units is not increased. And hearing order 206720, Potrero Power Station design exceptions, to consider the approval of at least 9 design exceptions to the subdivision regulations needed to implement the Potrero Power Station Phase 1 street improvements for PID 10714. The exceptions cover, but are not limited to, roadway widths, sidewalks, easements, and utility connections, depths, cover material, and flow velocities. My job as a hearing officer is to gather the facts for the hearing items, listen to your testimonies, and help our Director of Public Works make determinations. I will not be making any decisions today. Instead, I will forward the findings from this hearing and make my recommendations to the Director. The Director will make the final determinations. When the Director's determinations are made, the department will notify you of them if you have provided contact information. The hearing will proceed as follows. For the 5 cases, I will ask Public Works staff to speak first and present the case. Then I will allow property owner or appellant or applicant to speak. Then any member of the public or witness who wants to speak. Then the department, if the department would like to address any comments or make any clarifications. Then the property owner or appellant again, if the person has a rebuttal. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes to speak. The clerk will monitor the time for all speakers and will indicate when the speaker has 30 seconds left. If you are a party to this proceeding, I will call on you to speak. If you would like to use visual materials in your presentation, please let Nathan or I know before you like to speak and before you speak. You will then have the standard 3 minutes to provide your comments. If you're a member of the public who wants to speak, wait for me to call public comments, then use Zoom's raise your hand feature if you are on a computer to put yourself in the queue to speak. If you are dialing in on your phone, dial *9 to indicate that you're raising your hand. And when it is your turn to speak, I will recognize you. If you're on your phone and you are muted, press *6 to unmute yourself. And if you'd like to use visual presentations, let us know before you speak, and then you'll have the standard 3 minutes. And comments and questions should be addressed to me and not to the department and not to applicant. If you cannot finish your comments within the allotted time, you may submit written testimony to me by the end of the hearing. If I feel that a question is warranted, I will ask the question. And first, are there any members of the public that would like to address me, the hearing officer, on matters that are within the department's jurisdiction, but not on today's agenda? Okay, I don't see anyone's hand raised. So we'll proceed to the next item. Hearing order 206675. May I have the department make its presentation?
Good morning, hearing officer. My name is Woo Ju Chung. I am a street inspector supervisor with the Bureau of Street Use and Mapping, Public Works. We're here to present public hearing order 206675. I'm not sure, I might have to check with you, hearing officer, but I do have the order as 206642 on my document, but we can kind of resolve that on the back end.
You're right. It's 206675.
This is in regards to SERP 156, named Cabrillo/20th Avenue. Public Works Code Section 706 states that it shall be the duty of the property owners to maintain sidewalk and sidewalk area fronting or adjacent to that property in good repair and condition. That said, this public hearing is to consider the validity of notices to repair that have been issued to various property owners and utility agencies for the restoration of public right-of-way sidewalks. Sidewalk inspection and repair program was enacted by the city in 2007 to improve the pedestrian path of travel by inspecting and notifying property owners of defects requiring repair under city and state codes. Property owners are responsible to maintain the sidewalks fronting their properties. This program differs from past inspection programs by providing funding for the city to allow property owners the option to have the city repair the sidewalks for them and to invoice them upon completion of the work. Part of the SERP process is to hold public hearings for property owners to express their concerns as to the validity of the required sidewalk repairs. Since its inception, SERP has conducted inspections along 1,845 blocks and neighborhoods throughout the city. Today's hearing is for property owners who have received sidewalk repair notifications in the SERP 156 Inner Richmond District neighborhood, bordered by Andrew Street on the north, 18th Avenue on the east, Fulton Street on the south, and 23rd Avenue on the west. The letters for this area were mailed out on June 15th of 2022. Thank you.
Are there any members of the public that wish to speak on this item? Okay, I see no hands for this item. So I'm closing this item Hearing order 206675. Hearing order 206692. India Basin tentative map application 11105. May I have the department make its presentation?
Sure. Carl Hennessy, I do have some materials to present as well. So I think, do I just share screen? Yeah, okay. Okay, everyone able to see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So again, my name is Carl Hennessy. Going to give a very quick overview of what India Basin is. And also joining me today is Jim Rems, the surveyor, who will go into greater detail about the vesting tentative map. We're also joined today by the subdivider applicant, India Basin LLC, by Lauren Harvey. And also on the call as part of the overall project is Jonathan Cherry with the Mayor's Office of Economic Workforce and Development. So India Basin in general is a project that started with Community Vision in 2010. Shown on the screen are the 3 different areas that covers India Basin. The parcel we're speaking of in particular today is here circled in red, which is 700 Innis Street. The city entered a development agreement with India Basin LLC to develop this parcel, which contains about 22 acres, about over 1,500 residential units. There's going to be some commercial, and there's also going to be a community park as part of this overall development. The development will likely to occur over 3 different phases, of which have been identified as Hillside, which is the section. This is Innis Street on and north is to the left of the screen. Innis on the bottom and the bay on the north. Hillside is likely to be the first segment, followed in future orders in which would be Cove, and also a section known as the Flats. From a infrastructure perspective, the developer will be responsible for building new streets, sidewalks, street lights, sewer system, water system, communications, new traffic signals, and as I mentioned, also the parks. We are working with both the developer and also working with all the city agencies for a review of both from the tentative map perspective to going into detailed design to make sure their proposed infrastructure is to city standards. Again, we're joined by the applicant and also by Jim Rems, who is a city surveyor who can talk more about the tentative map itself and the details that are related to it. But that was just a general overview of what the India Basin Development Project is.
Let's see. Would anyone else like to speak on this item?
Jim?
Yes, good morning, hearing officer. My name is Jacob Rems. I'm the chief surveyor for the Department of Public Works, the Bureau of Street Use and Mapping. This tentative subdivision application requests approval for a vesting tentative map. The application number being 11105, and it's dated December 1, 2021. And it is to authorize a 34 lot subdivision with up to 1,575 new residential condominium units and 1 existing residential unit to be relocated, and up to 180 commercial condominium units. Our department has reviewed all testimony and materials, including but not limited to the development agreement, staff reports, comments, responses, and other information from concerned governmental agencies and utilities. and the information submitted by or on behalf of the subdivider, and other comments, responses, and information provided in connection with this application has been considered. We have requested this hearing to allow any interested party to provide additional comments for consideration. At this time, Public Works recommends that the tentative map application 11105 submitted on October 25th, 2021 be approved subject to compliance with city agency findings and conditions. Thank you, hearing officer.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this item?
Hello, yes, I'm Martin Yarrow representing Nicholson Heritage Group. We're ownership of 702 Ennis Avenue. I'm just curious if any of this information can be forwarded or some of those outlines that were just presented. Could I see further more information about those passed on, or how I could get some more access about that?
Hey, Martin, yes, I can make my presentation available along with information presented by Jim. If you want it in the chat, maybe give me your email address and or present it to the hearing officer, and then that way we make sure we can get the information to you.
Okay, great. That'd be awesome. I'll put my email in the chat right now.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else for this item? This item 206692 for India Basin. Okay, I see no other hands. So I am closing hearing order 206692, tentative map application 11105. Thank you. Okay.
Susan?
Oh,
would you
yep.
try promoting William Blackwell to panelist? He's presenting the next item.
Okay.
I'm trying to do it on my end, but it doesn't seem to be working. Oh, there it is. Thank you.
Got it. Okay. So next item, hearing order 206714, PID 10714, Potrero Power Station Conditions of Approval Amendment. May I have the department make its presentation?
Sorry, this is William Blackwell, Acting City and County Surveyor, Public Works, Bureau of Street Use and Mapping. And this is to consider the amending the conditional approvals for 10714. The conditions that we would like to amend are conditions number 2, pertaining to any final map submitted must be substantial conformance with the master tentative map and the number of vertical subdivisions, vertical lots, and residential and commercial condominiums shall not exceed the maximum numbers identified for each lot on the master tentative map. Additionally, we would like to approve BSM, Bureau of Street Use and Mapping permits condition number 1, that prior to the earlier subdivision submission, of the applicant's, pardon me, phase final map or execution of any applicable subdivision improvements agreement, the subdivider must obtain an exception from the subdivision code and regulations allowing for Georgia Lane, Lot F on the map, to be publicly accepted right away that is less than 40 feet wide. If such exceptions are not granted, the application phase final map must show Georgia Lane as a public right of way that is not accepted for maintenance and liability. The application phase final map shall show the lot for Georgia Street, Lot F, as being 39.5 feet wide. All testimony and materials included but not limited to the development agreement, staff reports, comments, responses, and other information from other concerned governmental agencies and utilities, and the information submitted by or on behalf of the subdividers, and other comments, responses, and information provided in connection with this application have been considered. We have requested this hearing to allow any interested parties to provide additional comments for consideration. And Public Works recommends the conditional approval of this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone that would like to speak on this item? Please raise your hand. Okay. I see no hands raised. So I am closing hearing order 206714 PID 10714 Peturo Power Station. Okay. Next item, our final item. Hearing order 206720 PID 10714 Power Station Design Exceptions. May I have the department make its presentation?
Good morning. Let me try to. All right. Good morning, hearing officer. This item is related to the item that Mr. Bill Blackwell just presented. Same project. My name is Danny Fan, and I'm a project manager with Infrastructure Task Force. And this item is in regard to the developer's request for an exception to the subdivision regulations for the Peturo Power Station project. And I have just a few slides to give you an overview of the project and then run through the exceptions really quick. So just to set the stage, this project is a major city development agreement project that is being developed by California Barrel Company, or CBC, that will rebuild and repurpose the former PG&E power station site in the central waterfront area into a new 29-acre mixed-use residential and commercial neighborhood. The project will feature approximately 2,600 dwelling units with 30% below market rate, 6.9 acres of new open space and parks, and 1.8 million square feet of new commercial space. And here's a bird's eye view of the project site that highlights all the new streets, parks, and waterfront improvements that are proposed for the project. And the white blocks are all the locations of the future vertical building developments. The developer is getting ready to start phase one of the project, which is shown in orange and includes most of the public infrastructure that's needed for the project site. In order to implement phase one, the developer has requested a series of exceptions to the subdivision regulations, which requires a public hearing and a director's order. These exceptions have been reviewed by the applicable city agencies and are deemed necessary to complete phase one. There are two categories of exceptions here. The first group are required exceptions that were previously identified and approved by city staff through the development agreement during the entitlement phase, and these now require formal approval by the director. The second group here are additional design exceptions that were identified during the design phase and require the director to consider and approve. In summary, these 9 exceptions are related to roadway widths, sidewalks, easements, and utility connections, depths, covers, material, and flow velocities. I'll run briefly through the first 5 exceptions that are contemplated and were already approved in the development agreement. The first is the waiver of form of dedication, and the request is to waive the requirement that the developer dedicates property to the city if they construct public improvements on private property. And instead, they're requesting the city to allow, they're requesting the city to accept the public easements for sidewalks, stormwater outfall, overland drainage, waterline easement on 23rd Street, and an emergency vehicle access easement into Power Station Park West and Department of Technology facilities. The second is a San Francisco Fire Department operations on Craig Lane exception. And the request is to allow a 10-foot clear width travel way instead of the minimum 40-foot due to the narrow width of this private street. And the fire department has reviewed this and signed a fire access memo approving this exception as well. The third is a minimum dimensions for bulb outs, and they're requesting to allow 4.5-foot wide curb extensions instead of the minimum 6-foot wide due to street width and utility conflicts. The fourth is a exception for minimum width of Craig Lane, and they are requesting a 34-foot wide street width instead of the minimum 40-foot due to the narrow width of this private street. And the fifth is a exception on 23rd Street sidewalk improvements, and they are requesting to grant an exception that requires the developer to install sidewalks along the south side of the 23rd Street because there's not existing sidewalk there now, and the side of the street will need to be maintained as industrial use for the Amazon delivery facility that's adjacent to the project site. Next, I'll run through the 4 remaining additional design exceptions that need to be considered and approved. The first one is the minimum width of Georgia Lane. And the request is to allow a 39.5-foot street width instead of a minimum 40-foot due to the physical constraints on either side of the street. On one side of the street is a PG&E substation building that will remain. And on the other side of the street is a Station A building that is needing to be preserved by the project. The second is in alternative pipe materials and the request to grant approval to use a different pipe material for sewer and storm drain mains instead of the standard VCP material. And that request is in order to improve flow velocity and pipe capacities. The third request is an alternative pipe depth, and the request is to grant approval to provide a minimum cover of 4 feet from the roadway surface to the top of the combined sewer pipeline at specific locations instead of the minimum 6-foot depth due to various utility conflicts. And the last exception here is for sewer pipe minimum and maximum velocities. And the request is to grant exceptions requiring the sanitary sewer system to have a minimum velocity of 2 feet per second because the phase 1 will not receive full design sanitary flows until future phases are completed. In addition, at specific locations, the system will exceed the max velocity of 10 foot per second at full capacity due to the need for steeper slope pipes to avoid utility conflicts. Excuse me. Public Works has reviewed and circulated the requested exceptions to the applicable city agencies during the design review phase of the street improvement plans as part of the regular permit process, as well as consulted with the city attorney's office, and all parties have deemed the exception request as reasonable and acceptable. Therefore, staff recommends that the hearing officer recommend to the director that she grant the 9 requested exceptions to the subdivision regulations pursuant to subdivision code section 1712 and in accordance with the project's development agreement in order to implement the phase 1 street improvements. Thank you, and that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Is there anyone that would like to speak on this item? Okay, and any members of the public that would like to speak on this item? Okay. Give it a few more seconds. Okay, I see no hands raised. So I'm closing this item number 206720 Petro Power Station design exceptions.
Thank you.
And just to make sure, are there any public comments on any of the items on this agenda? but if you've spoken, you'll not be allowed to speak again. This is for anybody who may have come late or didn't have a chance to speak. Okay, if there are no more public comments, I'm closing this hearing. And the hearing is now closed.